working on a 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse with the I think it's 3.0 V6, and it's got a vacuum leak. I just wanted to go over real quick, so let's get the car started so we can listen to it.
Right in this area is where I'm hearing it from.
So you heard that whooshing sound. So we're gonna go ahead and smoke check and see if we can figure out where it's coming from. Alright, so I've got my FX Tool smoke detector. I don't know if they still sell this anymore or not, but it's been a decently pretty good one, so I'll try to find a link for you. Got it hooked up, and I'm just going to take it to the intake right here, and we'll run smoke through it that way. So the setup is, you got your power wire, runs to the battery, it's not connected yet. You got the smoke line that goes into your bladder. You just pump it up into the intake, and then we'll connect the negative and this thing will start to build pressure, and then when you want the smoke to come, you just hit the button at the bottom. Now we wait a minute. Okay, so it's been like 30 seconds, and you can see the smoke billowing out. So down here we've got several hoses, and you got the throttle body gasket. And we can see that's coming between the throttle body and the intake plenum right here. So we need to figure out if the gasket's blown, if it's offset, or what's going on. Alright, so we just gotta take the intake off. So we're gonna take off this hose here, which that's starting to split, so I need to be mindful of that. And then that 10 mil. And we'll find out in a minute if we need to remove this battery. There's all smoke from where we pumped it in at. So all we want to do is back off that throttle body. And that's a new gasket on there. It's a paper gasket from Molly, I think it was. But I've got a used metal gasket that I'm going to see if we need to replace it with. So in order to pull this throttle body off, we've got to remove some of these vacuum lines so we can pull it forward. Just don't mix up where they go, and they kind of fall in place. Okay, so I think just those three, and the throttle cable will be attached still, but we should be able to just take the bolts off and roll it forward. We're not going to take the coolant lines off or anything like that. So we'll get those four off. Okay, the bolts are out. Let me bring you in here. So you can see those dark spots on that gasket. Well, those aren't covering the holes in the throttle body. So I wonder if it flips, but hang on. Okay, so let me show you this. So this was just a slightly used, I mean this car's only run a little ways with it. That was a new gasket. and then this is the one that we just ordered in. Now, when you look at the way it tells you to install it, right, the tab is up here. So with this, I wish I knew what brand this was, Felpro or Molly, I don't remember. You would think that that tab would go up, but in fact it goes like this. So this aftermarket one doesn't follow the same instructions as the OEM would, this way with the tab and its location. So come to find out, I mean, it's just simply the gasket wasn't positioned correctly to block all those holes. So that's just clearly someone, being me, trying to follow the directions, but aftermarket part did not have it laid out the correct way. So let's put it back together and see what happens. Alright, so I'm going to put this metal gasket back on here. It was once used and it's only been driven like 5 miles or so. So I'm going to put it back together this way and see if that does us some good. So Manuel says 104 inch-pounds. The hell did I do with my... There it is. So it was easier to put these two back hoses on first before putting those bolts on with that bracket in the way. Okay, 104 inch-pounds. Make sure the hoses are all connected. And then when you go to put your airbox back in, the throttle cable goes on top of this and it rides kind of in this line. Alright, get everything hooked back up, and I am running another smoke test machine just to make sure that I've got the seal taken care of, and maybe we'll find something new. I know that these throttle bodies are known to have a bit of a leak from the actual butterfly itself on the side, so I'm not worried about that if that's the case. Which, is that what we're seeing down here? Because I think they just have a little bit of a gap, and I think that's okay as far as that's concerned. But everything else, let's see. And these lines can only hold so much pressure because they're not usually under this kind of force. So some of this I'm not too worried about, but our throttle body seal is now sealed. Alright, everything's hooked back up. I did run a little bit of electrical tape around this vacuum line. I mean, this is just an old shit box. I ain't too worried about it, but let's start her up. Oh yeah, that's much better. No whistling. And it's got a good idle to it. For, you know, 202,000 mile piece of crap. So what I'll say to follow up on this is always double check your aftermarket parts, because they just don't lay out always the same as the OEM products. And the people make mistakes like I just did and didn't use my big brain to just recognize the layout of this, because I did have it laid up in here when I was replacing it, so it wasn't as easy to see the fault that was going to be. But anyway, hopefully that helped you guys out a little bit. Thanks.